understanding the world as alive is so off the radar screen in many of the conversations that I am involved in around economics, around climate change. You might have a climate conference where at the beginning you bring in some Native American person who does an invocation of the 4 elements, the 4 directions, or the 5 directions, or the 7 directions, or however many there are, and okay, you do this, and that's very nice, and we're all very respectful. And now, go sit down, now it's time for business. Let's talk about the models, let's talk about the metrics, let's talk about carbon dioxide and sequestration and fossil fuels and systems and energy returned on energy invested, all of these things. And that's the real part. And as Bio was saying, this real part has trapped us in a maze of our own construction that we can never get out of. The solutions are part of the problem. Quite literally, this one thing that came across my radar recently is that one of the reasons for the burning of the Amazon is that ranchers are being forced off their original lands because those lands are getting converted into biofuel production, which is encouraged by the desire to produce carbon neutral, so-called carbon neutral energy. So vast areas of land all over the world are being converted to biofuels. Forests are getting fed through wood chippers that then get shipped to power plants in England and Germany to produce carbon neutral energy. So, yeah, the solution is part of the problem. And I could give you many examples of that. I wasn't going to talk about that either. What it was really, actually I just wanted to come up here and feel the love, you know? I've become so aware that the reasons I tell myself for doing things are not the real reasons. Including the search for an answer. Bio said some questions, maybe they don't want answers. Maybe they are not seeking an answer. In fact, I find that the answer can be an escape from the question, or an escape from what's underneath the question, which is a questioning, or a questing, a quest. Can you feel underneath your questions the presence of a quest, which is an expression of the life force in search of its purpose, in search of its aim, a quest. Quest is the husband of pilgrimage, a journey with a sacred purpose that we are on. Even if we don't know what the purpose is, we can feel that that purpose will not have been answered if we somehow transition our entire economy to a non-fossil fuel energy source and continue the way that we've been going. We understand that the initiation that we are facing is a lot deeper than switching fuel stock. I spoke at Extinction Rebellion in Berlin a week or two ago, and I said, you guys are actually not here because of global warming. If global warming were reversed overnight, if next year the temperatures started falling again, if we have a new ice age approaching us, if the skeptics are right, you would still be here, because what we call global warming or climate change is an expression of a deeper condition. And for that condition to fully operate on ourselves, we are going to have to give up the superficial solutioneering that is an escape from that initiation. So the answer's an escape from the question. And this includes the deep metaphysical answers. There's such a craving, it's such a relief from the pressure of the question to get an answer. A reduction of the complexity of the world to a few things or to one thing, a few metaphysical principles. It's all, like, so it could be, it's all atoms and void in different permutations, and that gives rise to all phenomena. Or it's all consciousness, or everything is a story. I mean, this is what I like to play with. Everything is a story, but does that mean that everything is a story, or is it in fact that it is a story that everything is a story? Each of these things is, yeah, each of these things is a lens that reveals some aspects of reality, that reveals and thereby reveals some aspects of ourselves. And we can put on that lens, and the lens is a two-way lens. By putting on a lens of a discourse or of a worldview, of a story, not only does it reveal the world in a different way, but it reveals ourselves in a different way, and we become that lens. And so perhaps the question that we could ask isn't which answer is right or which lens is right, but who do I become and who do we become as we take on that lens or as we inhabit that world story? And this is a very different kind of inquiry than which one is right. And I'm seeing today a lot of what you might call totalizing discourses, where first you take a lens, and maybe in the beginning it's a playful thing. The lens of gender, the lens of race, for example, the lens of capitalism, Marxism, or it could be a metaphysical lens, the lens of consciousness, the lens of the Enneagram, the lens of Freudian analysis. All of these things reveal something, maybe something that was hidden, maybe something that is ready to be revealed and therefore calls that particular story into our collective consciousness in order that it may be revealed as part of our developmental trajectory. But often then it becomes a dogma, and we mistake the map for the reality and then develop an identity, that identity, who I become as I take on a certain lens, I become attached to that. And an assault. So one of the totalizing discourses right now, okay, I'm trying to say two things at once, an assault on that lens, on that map, on that understanding, on that belief system becomes an assault on myself because I am identified with it, because I've been trained through my education that it is really important to be right about something. That's what we're tested on in school. If you are right, you get an A. If you are wrong, you get an F. And this translates into if I'm right, I am good. If I'm wrong, I am bad. And on a deeper unconscious level, it is also, if I'm right, then the world is okay. Then I am in control of things. Even if the story that explains the world makes you helpless and impotent, there's still a feeling of control when you can say, the fires, oh, that's caused by climate change. That's caused by greenhouse gas emissions. Now I know what it is. I can order the world into a set of tidy categories, and now I know what the world is, and I know who I am. There's a relief there. Or last night, a young man said, I think that it's actually geoengineering, chemtrails, weather engineering, weaponization of weather. And we didn't speak much, but I know that narrative too, that there's a nefarious cabal of conspirators that pull the strings of this planet, and like that is, so the mind of separation wants to say, okay, is that right? Let me do the research. Let me investigate the facts. What you find if you go down any of these rabbit holes is that the deeper into the rabbit hole you go, the more the facts congregate around that perception. And you get this, you go down this rabbit hole of confirmation bias, selection bias. And it's really that you are entering a reality and entering a state of being in that reality that magnetizes the confirmatory evidence to it. So it looks like you're being objective. And how could the other people who don't believe me be so deluded, so blind? Haven't they looked at the evidence? The thing is, the other people are saying that about you. Maybe everybody is wrong. Maybe your disagreement with me is not due to some moral or intellectual deficiency, but that we are all exploring a different self, a different world self, a different state of being. So yeah, the fires. There's a relief almost to say, well, that's caused by global warming. Now, at least in theory, we know what to do about it. But what about the discomfort, the disruption, the disturbance that bio speaks about a lot, that of not knowing, of accepting the dissolution that comes in the presence of the mystery, of a universe that evades all of our attempts to confine it within a set of principles, within a metaphysical framework or an ecological framework or a social justice framework? What about the things that are left out? And so this is the deeper pattern that generates so much of the pain of this world today. The pain comes from what we leave out. The solution is not to leave other things out. Let's include these and leave other things out. That's still the same pattern. And I'm not saying that we should forever give up our story making, give up our dramas, give up the exploration of different aspects of ourselves as we step into this story and that story and that story. Yeah, this is an exploration. We can try them on. But we are coming to a time right now where the excluded ones are coming back to haunt us. We are haunted by them. And not only our maps, but our whole technique of map making is just getting us more and more lost. What gets left out? What gets left out when we try to reduce many things to one thing? Well, in the case of the fires, global warming, what gets left out? Let me just give you an example of what gets left out. Two examples. One is the salmon. What do the salmon have to do with forest fires? That seems like a separate issue. Well, actually, dam building for the production of hydroelectric power, which seems like that's good for the climate, and that should help the forest fires, right? That should help prevent forest fires if we are generating more electricity without producing CO2. But actually, the dams prevent the salmon from coming upstream to spawn deep inland. I mean, they swim hundreds of miles up these rivers and streams inland to spawn. And when they do so, they're carrying ocean nutrients inland. And the bears then come and eat the salmon, and then they go off into the woods and they poop, spreading the marine nutrients into the forest. And eagles and hawks and things also eat the salmon, and then they fly. 5 minutes, good. Yeah, then they fly inland and they distribute. And one ecologist told me that in some areas, half of the nitrogen in the forest flora is of marine origin. And in fact, it works even better when you have grizzly bears and black bears, because the black bears are better fishers, and they catch the salmon, and then they have to run away from the grizzly bears who want to take their fish. So this is an example of what I call Gaian physiology, the physiology of the Earth as a living being. And this kind of gets left out when you reduce it to a geomechanical device that when the air-fuel mixture, like in a diesel engine, gets disrupted, it doesn't work as well, so we have to change the air-fuel mixture and reduce, like this is a problem that we are comfortable with. We are comfortable with find some measurable quantity to control, or find a thing to control, to reduce the many to the one. That's the mindset of fundamentalism. That's the mindset of war. That's the mindset of money. The one thing that will solve all of your problems, the one thing into which everything is reduced. And so here is a template of solutioneering that is actually part of the problem. And we will never reach beyond that as when we are attached to the answers that we already have. And even, I would say, attached to the questions that we already have. We're facing not only the failure of our answers, but the failure of our questions, not asking the right question. That's why I like to return to what underlies the question, which is the questioning and the quest. What else gets left out? I'll name one other thing. I know a woman who works with Kogi mamas, that's their word for a shaman. And one of them came to California a few years ago. And he found a certain spot. And he said, here is the spot where you must do ceremony. If you don't, there are going to be really bad fires. And I will demonstrate. And he spent days doing ceremony there. And he said, this was not enough. You need to do it every week. People were like, oh, yes, yes, yes. But of course, they didn't actually go every week. I mean, that's pretty inconvenient to go every week and do a ceremony, a lengthy ceremony. And they didn't do it, and there were terrible fires, just as the shaman predicted. And he came back the next year, and he said, I thought I told you to do ceremony here. If you don't do it, the fires will be even worse next year. And that came to pass as well. And the third time it happened. And he said, you must do ceremony here, or the fires will be even worse. And people said, how could they be any worse? And the next year was the campfire. It was worse. I don't know if they're doing ceremony there now, but my friend looked into this, what is so special about this spot? And she did some research and discovered it was the site of a massacre a couple hundred years ago. The massacre of Native Americans by settlers. And the understanding then is that anywhere where intense trauma happens creates a disruption. And it disrupts the covenant that exists between humans and the non-human world. It's like a potent negative ritual. That level of cause, and it's not saying that that is the cause and something else is not the cause. That level of cause becomes invisible when we think that we know what is causing climate change, that we think that we know what is causing the fires. So I would like to, maybe I'm saying what Bio is saying in a different way, to invite us into the unknowing and to notice what you have to sacrifice to be in the unknowing. The sacrifice of being right, which is a sacrifice of belonging, usually to a group that we're all right together, unlike those people who are wrong. It's a way to recover a feeling of belonging. It is a symptom of a deeper cause. I mean, here again, the old pattern of find the cause and extirpate it, control it, that comes up in our personal work too. And it blinds us if we identify self-righteousness or being right. Like when Mauricio came up here and was like, maybe I'm doing it all wrong, and people assured him, no, you're doing everything right. I don't think that that's quite the right conversation. For me, when I'm in that, I totally go, like, sometimes I think everything I do and say is wrong. Like, what if I'm wrong about everything? What if I'm wrong that civilization is on the wrong course? Maybe Steven Pinker is right and things are getting better and better, and I should join with this grand project of the ascent of humanity and progress and development. Maybe I'm wrong about everything. I know I'm over time. Oh, no, I still have negative 40 seconds. Like, what if I'm wrong about everything? I visit this place, And what comforts me is not, oh, no, Charles, you're right after all. if I attach being right to my self-esteem, to my love, then I am enslaved to being right and I become stupid because I become unable to see what is off the radar. What really reaches me on a deeper level is I love you anyway. And to be seen beyond the image that I maybe create for myself and others, that I'm right, that I have the answers, that I have the knowledge. Maybe I am right about a lot. I would like to see our leaders, our politicians, have moments too where they think maybe I'm wrong about everything. Because as a collective, I would say that we're pretty wrong about almost everything. And we gather here together driven by, I would say, the same quest, a common quest that is dissatisfied with the answers, with the questions, and with our technology of question answering. And we gather together implicitly to remind each other that it is okay. To strengthen each other in not knowing. Underneath, I'll say one last thing. Underneath the answers, right or wrong, another kind of information is trying to get in. And it is better able to get in when we put down the fences, the cages, the organizing categories, and our attachment to them. And allow the mystery to touch us. Thank you.